Hey, what's up everybody? My name is Kyle and welcome to DIY Buildouts. In this informational segment, I'm going to talk to you about the differences in plywoods, specifically the differences you'll find between buying a sheet of plywood at a big box store versus finding a specialty lumber store that carries Baltic birch. The first piece of material that I'm going to talk about is something you'll buy from Lowe's or Home Depot, the big box stores. This is a sheet of birch plywood that they sold me. As you can see, there's a lot of voids in there, meaning there's a lot of gaps. Now, it's not consistent all the way through, but this does interrupt the project. And secondly, the drawback to this is that the veneer is super thin, if you can even find it on there. It's about 1 millimeter thick. So if you do any kind of sanding work, you're gonna go right through it. This is good if you're gonna do something that you're just gonna paint over, or it's not really gonna have to carry a lot of weight, because as you can see, the number of layers in this, while they're large, they're not that many compared to, say, Baltic birch. Now, Baltic birch is a solid piece of birch. It was a log or a trunk of birch spun around a lathe into sheets and then pressed back together into completely flat panels. So you can sand away on this all day and all you get is layer after layer of birch, which is very nice. Also, it's very consistent and it doesn't really have voids. If it does have a void in it, they do what's called a knockout, and they put these little footballs in there. So they punch it out and they replace it with one of these little footballs, so it's a solid piece. Let's talk about some other options that you have. Maybe MDF, right? Or Particleboard. MDF sheets like this one over here are great for specific applications, but they're only good for painting. If you're gonna stain, these do not accept stain. Also, they blow up or swell up if they come in contact with water. They are basically just a bunch of sawdust and glue pressed together into like a cork style board. Now, MDF, like I was saying before, can only be painted, it cannot be stained. It has specific applications where it can be beneficial. I've used it in tops like over here under my jointer. I found that for shop materials, MDF sheets are rather inexpensive, and especially when I'm just gonna be using them for tabletops that I'm gonna paint on or stain on or glue on, MDF is the way to go. Particleboard is used in my shop as well for tabletops that I wanna paint on or just do rough surface work on, and I don't wanna worry about the material underneath. It's super cheap. It's probably about 14 or 15 bucks a sheet for a 4x8 at the big box store. Now, there are drawbacks to this. Just like MDF, Particleboard does not hold screws particularly well. So if you're looking for structural strength, do not use Particleboard or MDF. Stick with a Baltic Birch Plywood instead. Now, the nice thing about this is it sands down smooth. So when you pick it up from the big box store, it's probably not gonna be all that smooth to the touch, but if you hit it with 120 grit sandpaper on an orbital sander, it actually turns into a nice smooth surface that you can work on. Finally, one other material I'd want to talk about is if you have the tools, like I happen to pick up here, a jointer and a planer, you can work with the raw lumber that you can buy from the lumber stores. Now here I have a set under my kids' toys of 2x4s and 2x8s lying around. Now this lumber is super cheap, but it's also susceptible to warping. A lot of times when you pick up this construction grade lumber, you'll find that some of the boards are heavy and wet and some of the boards are dry and light. And that's because not all of the boards are treated the same way. Some of these things sit on the back of semi-trucks while they're getting transported to the big box store. I've seen pallets of this stuff left outside of the big box store. So water can seep inside. Some boards will absorb it, some won't. So if you're looking for furniture grade quality, this is probably not the way to go, but if you're looking for something inexpensive, maybe some framing work, because that's basically what that's for. It's construction grade framing lumber. Then you can use it. Well, one great application I have found for that material is if you have a jointer and a planer, and you give that material time to settle in your garage or wherever you're going to use it and let it air dry out so it's completely dry, then you can put it through these two tools and you can make incredible farmhouse tables, chairs, and all sorts of really cool things. The only drawback is the finished product is made out of pine. Pine is soft. So if you have anything like even a quarter or a key or a cup and you press it too hard into the tabletop, you're gonna leave a little mark. So if you're looking for a fine application that you don't want any kind of marking on, pine is not the material for you. But if you're looking for something that is more of a farmhouse design or something that's a little more rustic and you're already gonna mar it a little bit, give it a weather antique kind of look, this pine material is actually pretty good, provided you do two things. One, bring it home, let it cure for a couple weeks to get all the water out. And secondly, hit it through the jointer and the planer to get all those things square, because that material is not gonna be 100% square. You have to work with it a little bit because it is construction grade framing lumber. Okay guys, thanks for watching this video. Hopefully you found this information useful. A lot of the materials that I was trying to cover are the basic materials that you'll find at the big box store or the specialty lumber supplier. And if you don't use the right material for the right project, you're probably not gonna get the right outcome. So if you found this information useful, please give me a thumbs up, like this video, leave me a comment below if you could think of any other application for the materials that I talked about that I didn't cover. I'd love to have this community talking, engaging, and learning together, because that's what this is about. It's about sharing and growing and becoming better DIYers all around. Finally, if you haven't already done so, hit that subscribe button below. I'd love to have you hit the bell icon as well, because when you do that, you'll get notified of all the future projects I'm about to post. And I have a whole bunch of them behind me stacked up, ready to be launched. So when I get those finished up, those videos are coming out, and I'm sure you're gonna wanna see them if you like this one. All right, that's all for this one, guys. Have a wonderful day.